Okay, get it spinning before you put the pressure. There we go. There we go.
I think I'm through.
Okay, pull back. Let me take a look inside. Welcome back to the community, everybody, and thank you for being part of it. And also, thank you for the donations that have been sent in. I really appreciate it. It helps to supply the parts and things we need to keep making these DIY videos. And if you can, drop down into the description. There's a safe link to PayPal to make a donation. I'd really appreciate it. Today, we are going to do something special. Fires in beetles. And there's been enough of them, more than probably anyone realizes. I just seen one recently. I don't know if it was on our Slade community group or another group. Sad, my memory's not that good. Somebody experienced a beetle fire. That's awful. I hate seeing that, but it does happen. Let's try to prevent that. We're going to go over numerous ways of what you can do to prevent losing your beetle or your Carmangia or your bus. You know, they're all pretty much the same, these air-cooled, to a fire. That we don't want. Come towards the end of the film, I'll go ahead and announce the giveaway because that's going to be any day now. I got half of the video done. It's a little tricky to do. You'll see why when I do it. I have to do an automated raffle and keep splicing and cutting to make it right. So somebody's going to win a lot of cool stuff. So, okay, let's get on it. Let's discuss this. And I'm trying to get my buddy to come over, by the way, and we're going to do something cool in this video. All right. Hang in here, sit down, get something to drink. I'll be right back. All right, so I have all kind of different things we're going to go over, all right? And I do believe my buddy's bringing a carburetor over, which I'll add into this film. He bought the fittings like you see here. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to install one. We're going to drill, we're going to tap, we're going to install, and show you what to watch for. So hopefully that's in with this video. I'm just waiting on a phone call, so... All right, I'm going to bring you in close and show you a couple of things. We'll keep going over stuff. So now, as you see on many beetles, Carmangias, you know, bus, etc. All right, you're going to see a lot of people with the plastic fuel filters in our engine compartment. Now, I do not like these. Yes, I did run them before when I was young. They become hardened from the heat, the plastic, and it gets very brittle. And you have to remember, it's plastic. I don't think this type of thing belongs in the engine compartment. And I'm sure some of you will say, I'm fine, and that's good. Go ahead and run it if you feel the need. But when plastic gets hot, it ends up dry rotting, becoming brittle, and then you have a fuel leak, which will inherently go down on the distributor, and boom, you've got a fire. So the plastic ones, I'm not real big on. A lot of times people will run them under the car, which I'll go over that in a moment. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'll show you the proper way of doing it under there so it's secure. But the plastic fuel filters, I'm not a real big fan on these. And I know they're cheap. Sometimes cheap can be good. And sometimes cheap can't be good at all. So you want to eliminate the plastic fuel filter to begin with. Okay? If you really want to keep your fuel filter inside the engine compartment, and this is just an opinion. Do what you want to do. It's your car. I'm not responsible for what you do. This is a Hastings GF1. It is a metal fuel filter. Okay, now obviously it's not going to dry rot. Any fuel filter can leak, but the metal's more durable. This here is the Hastings GF1. I didn't know they were made in China. They must have just started doing that not too long ago. Maybe somebody can chime in. My father was big on Hastings in the late 70s. Only used their oil filters. But anyhow, okay, that's the Hastings GF1 for what you're going to do inside the compartment, and you want a metal one. So the next thing I'm going to show you how to start moving stuff out of the engine compartment, okay? And I did a video specifically on this, so I'll insert a small bit here. Is a fuel filter bracket. These are laser cut by one of the VW guys, and these are nice. I'm not trying to sell you something. You don't have to buy it, but it's some nice insurance. He was nice enough to send me one a while back, and the funny story to that is I was just getting ready to order one because I had one years ago on my 72. He makes them for plastic filters or metal filters. Obviously, you know which one I recommend. These are nice. Here, I'll bring you up close. This is what they look like, okay? So you have two little nuts here, and of course the plate comes off and the fuel filter drops out, and you change it. There's two little rubber grommets here to hold it in place. And these take a different part number. The fuel filter for this is, okay, I'm scrolling it up the screen, sorry. But a very nice stable bracket. Now that's what you want. Go ahead and watch the like 30 seconds of this video and I'll show you what I mean. And clamp it there, okay? And then of course up here, the hose runs up to the engine. But this is a really nice setup. So let me bring the camera down here and show you a couple other things. That's a little bit better of an angle for you to see, but that's how nice this is. I love it, I do. And when you're ready to change your filter, obviously you do not have to take this whole bracket off. Let me get underneath. As you would remove these two nuts, this little plate comes off and the fuel filter pops out, so you don't have to ever remove the whole bracket again. That's what I'm talking about with this. And I believe a couple of the community members on our Facebook group, some of them have just bought these recently. So down in the description, I'll send you a link on where you can find it out on Asamba Classifieds. If you do, it's up to you if you want one, okay? But these are nice. It gets it out of the engine compartment and away from it. Let's go on to the next thing. All right, the next category we are going to get into is fuel hose. All right, now, as you know, we have, they say 10% ethanol in our fuel now. Somebody just started a weed whacker. Give me a second. Okay, that's a drowned it out. And you know, I'll bring something up here. Sorry to get off track, but I do that. This wireless mic has 3 settings, and the third setting is it kills background noise. And I want to thank you folks, because for the donations that were sent in, I was able to upgrade from a really crappy microphone I had before to these wireless mics. And the second one goes on the next person, like if Heather's in a film with me or somebody else, so there's dual mics. Okay, there was a good example there, so hopefully you can't hear that weed whacker because it's loud. Fuel hose. I know, I'm sorry, I wanted to bring that up. Fuel hose. We have 10% ethanol in our fuel. Now, I believe it's higher. It's probably 15%. Or maybe you're in a state that has higher ethanol. I don't know if that's possible. Ethanol actually eats away on rubber, is what it does. So I'm not a chemist. I don't know a ton about ethanol. I just know it's not good, and it can start fires, okay? So what we got to do is be very vigilant about our fuel hose. So let me bring you up close a minute and show you a few things here. So I'm going to show you these a minute. I got carburetors everywhere that will be involved in a moment. Now, these are fuel hoses. This is a brake hose. There's a reason I showed this. A lot of us like the braided fuel lines, okay? And as you can see, that's what they look like. They are braided, all right? Now, some people say to run 5mm. I prefer 5.5mm. That's what I prefer, okay? Now, obviously, these aren't ethanol resistant, so it's good to actually once a year, 2 years at the most, and you want to check your fuel lines really well. Make sure there's no seepage or no dampness on them, because if you have that, then you want to change it. The fuel line is very cheap, okay? I like getting mine through eBay. They have 5.5 braided on there. Just punch it in, and you can get that. The reason I showed this brake line, and it's also braided, there's a reason I showed this, because if you've got a big box of hose laying around, I didn't want anyone to think that this was fuel line, okay? So let's move that out of the way. Now, you can get your fuel line where you want. There's a lot of the companies that sell the braided German fuel line, all right? This here I showed because this is 1/4-inch rubber hose, all right? and you can make it fit. You just got to put it on very tightly. All right. Now, the thing is, make sure if you're going to use the 1/4 inch, you might as well get the 1/4 inch fuel injection hose. And some of you will say, why fuel injection hose? We don't have fuel injection on these. Well, I mean, some Beetles do. Very few. The fuel injection hose is supposedly ethanol resistant, okay? So you're going to want to go with a high quality fuel injection hose that is ethanol resistant, and it's for today's modern cars. That'll really help out a lot if you even want to do that. It's your call on which hose you go with, all right? Now, the next thing that we're going to discuss is clamps. What clamps are you using? Because it can make a difference, okay? And we're going to keep getting into more vital things. So come here a second. Let me show you the 3 different style clamps I have on hand and what I prefer. We have 3 different types of clamps, okay? And there may be more, but this is what I know of. This here is the most common clamp. Everybody has been using these, well, since I was a kid. I remember my dad using these, all right? I do not like these at all. I think they're a piece of crap. I just am not a big fan of them. That's why you see when you get cars, you'll see larger versions of these holding the radiator hoses on and, you know, different things of that nature. Now, this is the size for a fuel hose. May look a little big in here, but that is what you would like to use. Something that has full circle, okay? These are nice. However, the one I really prefer is this style, and it'll tell you the size. This is 11 to 13 millimeter, okay? And these are full circle, and you can crank on these babies pretty good. There's different sizes of them, and they really, really make a nice difference. At least I believe so. Many people like these. All right, now I do not have one here to show you, but let's talk real quick about electric fuel pumps, okay? And as you can see, here's one here. And they have different types of them, okay? So there's a lot of people that make the fuel pumps. You know, I guess Holly, Carter, Mr. Gasket, you know. I prefer Carter, but that's just me. One thing you need to know about them is make sure you have them hooked up properly. I'm not a big fan of them, but I may run one soon, just for the heck of it. Hopefully it don't fail and then I don't get stuck somewhere. Ugh. But the point being, you have to hook them up properly, and here's why. If in fact your engine would stall for some reason, and you do not have the electric fuel pump hooked up properly to shut off when the motor loses power and shuts down, you're going to have fuel pumping all over a hot motor. You don't want that. So make sure you look into it and hook one up. If I had one to hook up, I would do a video on that, but I don't have one here at this time. But you want to hook them up properly so there's a shut off. Now you can put a toggle switch on it and kill the power to it. But in an emergency or anything goes wrong, what if you do not hit that switch? You want it to do it on its own. So that is a real big thing with the electric fuel pumps. Make sure you hook it up properly to where it shuts off if the engine fails, and then you'll be safe. Fairly safe. So, where are we going next? Of course, you've seen it sitting here, a fire extinguisher. And no, I did not buy that from J-Bugs. It was a sticker I had. A fire extinguisher, I would really carry one with you. You can put them down by the kick panel, the side of the tunnel, behind the seat on the pillar. There's quite a few places you can mount one. I would really say you should carry one. Did I carry one for years? No, I never did. Last time around I did as I got a little older and thought maybe it's not a bad idea. Oddly enough, when I was young, I drove from state to state with mine and never carried anything. Not even a belt. Not smart, huh? All right. You definitely want to. And make sure it is full. And once in a while, flip it over like this. Take a rubber mallet and tap it lightly. And you'll feel the powder break up in it, okay? I used to fill fire extinguishers for 11 years ago when I was young. That's how I know. So you want to keep the powder broke up inside there. Definitely, a fire extinguisher. So what I'm going to talk about now here, and I'm going to show you something on the screen, and I'll do a voiceover on this part, and then we'll go back to being live here, is a fire suppression system. I've never owned one, but let's face it, it's not a bad idea. So let's take a peek here, and I'll see what I can find.
Now what we have here is a fire suppression system, blaze cut, and what happens, it's installed inside the engine compartment, and when it reaches a certain temperature, and I don't know offhand without looking it up, that hose you see there will pretty much blow out a chemical and extinguish the fire out immediately.
So here we have our typical Solex carburetors, all right, and they've been around forever, as you know. Now those and the old style fuel pumps, yes, those kind, okay, they have a tendency where the fittings will come out, okay, and I'll bring you up close here right now. Now what we have here is the older style Solex carburetors, okay, and if you can see here, these fittings, okay, that's a 34 picked, and here's a 30, same thing, okay, these will pull out. And a lot of people will put their fuel lines on, and then when they go to take them off, instead of slicing and taking them off, they pull until they pull this out. Now, a lot of times people will do a little trick with these and tie a wire from the hose clamp over to the screw like you see here. And that's fine. It will hold it in place. Now, there's also something else you can buy, and I'll show you here online. And when you use that and tap these in, it supposedly holds them really tight. A buddy of mine uses it, and that never failed. Now, here is the alternative. Now, this here has a threaded fitting, okay? And let me see if I can get you even a little closer. It threads into the carburetor. Okay, a lot of the MP style carburetors and aftermarket ones, this is a no-name, probably just Chinese carburetor, they come with them threaded in, which is a very smart thing to do, okay? Now, it's not barbed like you see here. So I prefer the barbed fitting, okay? But truthfully, this even just being threaded in helps, because then you can put your hose on there and you can tie your little wire around the clamp and back to here. But do yourself a favor, if you're going to go to the trouble to put a threaded fitting in, make sure it's barbed. So now what we are going to do is we're going to show you how to install one, okay? I truthfully think it's a really good idea. You know, I believe when you order a carburetor through Volksbits, I believe his are barbed and threaded too. Now, don't quote me on that, but I think it is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to drill, tap, and thread a barbed fitting in. They're very cheap to buy, and it's good quality insurance. So, okay, sit back and enjoy this section of the video. All right, so what we have here is the barbed fittings we're going to install. Evan here, it's his carburetor. It's from a 74?
Yeah.
Thing?
Yep.
74 VW thing. It's a pick 34. There's really not a lot of differences on these carburetors when it comes to the top plate. So we're going to go ahead and he's going to do a drill and tap and run it in. So I'm going to go ahead and film this so that you can see. You don't have to do this, but you should do it, okay? So let's check out what goes on here. First, what we're going to do here is we are going to remove this fitting out of here, okay? And this is the one that we're talking about that ends up sliding out and causing fires, okay? So I'll bring you in close here. Now do it which way you want to do it, but I'm just going to take a pair of vice grips and... Is my hat in the way? No?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. And what you're going to do, just twist back and forth gently. Don't act like an idiot.
Still would not trust that.
There we go. Normally, the ones that are bad, I've actually pulled where I was pulling the hose off and the whole fitting comes out. That's what we want to eliminate happening. You're just seeing one that was tight. So let's go over and get the top of it off. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take the top of the carburetor off. I'll try to, whoops, try to keep out of your way as much as possible. Tap. Boink. Okay. Now what we're going to do, new gasket on her, is take 14, take this off of here because you're going to be putting it in a vise. And you do not, well, that feels a little crummy coming out of there. You don't want to screw up your shutoff valve. Okay, and don't lose this shim. These shims are very important and they're spaced to different thicknesses. So let me get this set up in a vise and then I'll show you what we're going to do. All right, so we got it in a vise and set up. If you have a drill press, that's a bonus. I don't have one. I've always meant to buy a cheap one and I'm being cheap. Okay, so we have it in the thing, in the device, tongue-tied today. You want to go straight in, but I guess you know that already. So I'm going to bring you up close, and Evan's going to show you something.
So Slade and I were talking about this, and see how this hole is a little bit towards the top of the plate? We were going to take the drill bit, and when we were looking at it to get an idea of how close it would be to the edge, we were not crazy about that.
No, there's not much meat to work with.
So I was thinking what we could do is take another drill bit and drill down a little bit just to get it started to try to get a little bit more meat.
Yeah, I agree.
So
okay, let's try it. Okay, the main thing here is to make sure that you are drilling nice and straight. And we used a little PB Blast instead of cutting oil because it's aluminum, so you'll be fine to do that. Alrighty. Okay, so he did the one step. Okay, we're working smaller on the bits and we'll work our way up, and I'll show you why in a second here. Let me blow this off with some air. If you look right here, okay, this is the size of the tap. So we're talking very, very close. So that's why we're starting out smaller and working our way up. Okay, we're on to the next size bit. Always reverse your bit when you're backing up. Let me blow it out with air. So this is a 21/64 drill bit. This will be the final drill.
make sure to be as straight as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
How do I look from your angle?
Good. Back here just a hair right there. You're good.
Would help to go
Remember,
the right direction.
If you had a drill press, use it. That thing is sharp.
Ooh.
Okay, back it out. Okay, wait a second.
Definitely want to put some PB in that.
Okay, let me blow this out. Okay. It's better to take your time than screw up. And we're going to hit it with a little PB. Okay.
That's a torquey.
Yeah, that bit is extremely razor sharp. Okay, get it spinning before you put the pressure. There we go. There we go.
I think I'm through.
Okay, pull back. Let me take a look inside. You are good. Okay, let me blow this out. Yeah. Okay, so it is drilled out completely. Now, this is where your fuel shutoff valve goes. So when you're putting that drill in, don't drill too far and drill into the threads of the shutoff valve, okay? And use a drill press if possible. I don't have one here, but I can assure you I'm going to buy one now. Okay. See how there's not much meat? See how close that is? Not much skin left. So let's go ahead, and Evan's going to go ahead and tap the threads now. A little bit of squirt, squirt. All right. Here is the size of the pipe tap. It's 1/8 inch, which measures to 27. Okay. And that's which one you use. We ripped it open already, so it's hard to see. But that's what you use. Okay, here we go. A little bit of PB blast on it.
Biggest thing is just to make sure you're going
not straight.
Of course
Okay.
I'm not. There we go.
Right there. I'm going to hold that. Okay. Right like that. Okay. There we go. So you're going to go in. Now you're going to stop. Okay. You're going to back out a half turn. That's it. Little PB blast. Right there, brother. There we go. Now you want to go a full turn when you're doing this. Sorry about the shoddy camera today here. A little more, a little more, a little more. Okay, we're going to back out now. A nice full half turn. There we go. We're going to hit it with a little PB. You can get away without using cut oil on aluminum. I'm tongue-tied today. I don't know why. Okay, we are going to go further. And take your time. Don't go fast when you're doing this. You want the threads to cut in nice and clean. Not that I'm a machinist or anything, but okay, we're going to stop. We are going to back it out a full turn to get some of them shavings out. There we go. Take it out. I'm going to blow that out, and then we'll put the tap back in. Give me 1 second. Now, what I did do is I blew out everything, and I cleaned up the tap. So we're going to hit a little bit of PB on there. Okay, we're going to wind it in by hand with your fingers. There we go.
Those are some nice threads.
Yeah, that's a nice tap though. Okay, so now we're going to go to the extreme. Take your time, wind it slow. See how slow he's actually going? You don't want to go winding it in with a gun or acting like a nut with it. Okay. Now we're going to back up a full turn. As you can see, the shavings coming up. Okay, a little PB. And remember, if you're doing steel or something, then you're going to use cutting oil. But on aluminum, aluminum is very forgiving, so to speak. Unless you crack it. But
yeah, that would be no good.
Okay, one more. Okay, now we're going back up. Okay.
I think it's time to take it out. There's a lot of shavings in there.
Okay. Let's spin it out and clean it up one more time. You see why this is no good now? No. Evan's face just dropped. Okay. As you look, I wanted to keep blowing it out because it is aluminum and it's soft. I wanted to get the crumb bums out. We still have a little bit to go, as you can see there. Your face was like...
I should have known you were going to do that.
Okay. We're going to hit it with a little bit of PB.
Yep, I almost forgot.
That's okay. It's all right. Take your time. Now he's going to wind it in with his fingers.
If I could get it started with my fingers.
That's all right. Take your time. Don't rush.
That's weird. There we go. Would help to have it straight.
Now see how smooth it goes in. All right. We still have a little ways to go, but it's nice to keep cleaning the threads out, especially when you're working with aluminum. Okay. We're going to do one full turn and back out a quarter. Or right there, back out a quarter turn. Move your left fingers out a little. There we go. Okay. And we're going to run in. I want to take a peek at something a minute. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to stay on this side. I'm trying to make sure we don't go through too far. Back out a couple. There we go. This is coming out good. Okay, go back in. Almost. Okay, back out, half turn. Always back out to get your shavings cleaned up. Okay. A little more, back out. Even on steel, you always back out and then go back in. There we go. Slow down. There we go. Back up a hair. Let me feed it a little bit of pee-pee. There we go. You'll know when it needs some PB. It'll start feeling a little bit sketchy. Okay, go ahead. Okay, and back out completely. I want to take a look at it and see what the deal is. Let me blow it out and clean it up, and we'll take a look. I'll be right back. All right, so I blew it out and we're done tapping. I'm going to show you the threads. Nice and clean. Can I get a round of applause there? There we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get ready to put the fitting in. And you can see what Evan was trying to say. There's not that much meat on the sides. It's close. So let's go ahead and get the fitting inside and put the fitting in. I'll zoom in here. That is an 11 millimeter wrench, at least on the one that he had purchased.
Look at that.
Now, before any of you say anything while he's tightening it, some of you may want to use some type of field-proof Teflon or some type of pipe sealer or some Loctite. That's up to you. We're just doing a demonstration to show you how it works so you can do it at home. And I'll go over something in a moment with you when we're done here. But we do want to put it all back together. And don't over tighten this. Don't go crazy and end up breaking it apart. So that's what it looks like there. As you can see, it's seated very, very nicely. Now, what size hose will that take?
1/4 inch or 6 mil.
Okay, alrighty. Okay, give me 1 second, folks. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this back together. So I'll bring you in close a second and go over a couple of things. Go ahead and put it together real quick, and we're going to go over a couple of things. And make sure you put the shim back in. As I was saying earlier, there's 2 different size shims in these, okay? Give it a snug. And turn it around 3,000 times.
Put it on backwards. It runs better that way.
There we go. All right, let's get in close. Okay, now that is like artwork, okay? And our friend Chuck had rebuilt the carb, so he signed it. Okay. If you see, it's nice and flush. I do believe on some of these you can put a washer on there. It's almost like a crush washer. So if you would like to do that, or use some pipe cement, pipe dope, so to speak, or some, you know, some type of Teflon that's gas-proof, fuel-proof, okay? So that's what you want to do. This may have looked like it was hard to come out, and it was. This one was a little bit of a bugger, okay? However, not all of them are like that. Now, as easy as they pop out is as easy as you're going to have fuel all over your motor going down the road. I don't have one here that's that loose. That one was a little tight to come out, but you got to trust me on this. They wouldn't be putting these on now on the empty carburetors and all the other ones if it wasn't an issue, okay? So you definitely want to do this if you can. It pays off in the end. So that's the barb fitting installation for the carburetor. I know, and I hate to repeat myself, however, yeah, you see me struggling to get it out of there. Probably 80% of them come right out, and that's not good. So I went over everything with you from the hoses, which is very important. Evan did say what size?
1/4 inch or 6 millimeter.
Okay, and that's a barb fitting. So once it goes on, you're not getting it back off. The thing about the barb fittings, which I don't care, fuel hose is not that expensive. When you go to order a meter of it or a yard of it or whatever, get a bunch of it. buy like 4 meters and keep it on hand at home. Because when you push it onto a barbed fitting, a lot of times you got to slice it to get it off of there. And there's nothing wrong with that. I believe for the older style fuel pumps like you see here, I believe you might be able to put barbed fittings on her if needed. One of my old fuel pumps, the fitting came right out when I pulled on the hose. So just so you know. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. We got to keep these cars on the road. I'm going to go ahead and get some good stuff coming up next week. I already started on the body work, so I'm going to be pretty much editing a bunch of films together because I don't think you want to see me just keep sanding. I think that's boring for people. When I do go to paint, you're going to watch me do all the paint work though. We got to do the rails and seals around the trunk. Okay, so I am going to go over that and film it, and I'll do some time lapse on it because we're going to use phosphoric acid. OSPHO is what we're going to use. So lots coming up. The giveaway's on its way. I got to just finish editing it, and we have 3 winners. 1, 2, 3, and I'll see you soon.